Hey, this is Craig Ballantyne, and welcome to Warren Buffett's #1 productivity hack. Today, what we are going to go through is a story that, man, it just hit me in the heart this week. It's going to take a little bit of your imagination, but it is going to really, really help you figure out how to use your time better, thanks to old Uncle Warren. All right. So let's start off with this little mindset. So imagine this. You and I were in Cancun, where I live in Cancun, Mexico, and we're at my favorite restaurant for brunch. It's called El Deli, and we're having the French toast. And this French toast, man, it is this thick. There's a picture of it, and there's a butterscotch sauce and it has fruit with it. Man, usually Michelle and I split this thing. It's absolutely amazing, and we're having it. And I ask you the Dan Sullivan question. So Dan Sullivan is a mentor of mine. I was in his program for a while. He's the author of many books. One of my favorites is The Gap. But Dan Sullivan has the trademark Dan Sullivan question. And the Dan Sullivan question goes like this. Imagine we were having this discussion 3 years from today, and you were looking back over those 3 years. What has to have happened in your life, both personally and professionally, for you to feel happy with your progress? So he asks these of all of his coaching clients and everybody who joins his program. And he's got a book about this, and it's a good question, but I think it's not a great question, because I think there's a better version of this question. Because the problem with entrepreneurs, and this is a problem that hit me in the heart this week on some of my coaching calls, is that we want to do too many things, and we end up stepping over dollars to pick up dimes, And what that means is that we give up the great to focus on the good, but you got to give up the good to focus on the great. Or as I like to say, if you want to do great things, you have to do fewer things. So this question here, man, all of a sudden, this person who is asked this question, they're going to sit there and they go, oh, I want to take the family on this trip. I want to start this business. I want to grow this business. I want to get in shape. I want to run a marathon. I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I want to take the family to Italy and they just have this laundry list of things. It's too much stuff. And so one of my clients, Dr. Vikram Rea, he runs a massive real estate fund called Viking Capital. He also has a coaching program. He had a clinic. We helped him, move away from the clinic so that he was able to pare down. But he has all these things he wanted to do. He spent a month in Italy, and he's so successful. He has so much energy. But when you do that, you kind of have a shotgun scattered approach. And when he was explaining all the things he wanted to do in the next little bit, I was like, whoa, we got to cut back. Because I said to him, and this is the analogy that I really want to hammer home, is that, you've all gone to a buffet, right? And you've gone to a buffet. So let's imagine this. So let's imagine we're at my favorite buffet in Cancun, the Ritz-Carlton, and they have this amazing breakfast buffet. And we're all sitting there, and you see this person walking back from the buffet, and there's a few plates of food on the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. And imagine those were all on one plate, right? Like, that's so much food. And we all know, we go to a buffet, we go up to the buffet, and our eyes, as the old saying goes, our eyes are bigger than our stomach. And we go back with all this food. We don't even care for half of the stuff that we put on our plate. It was just there, right? And I know I've done this a million times. And we go back and you end up either not eating it all, or you eat it all, which is huge regret. And you don't really enjoy it, because instead what you should have done is just chosen what you focus on, or what you should focus on, and choosing smaller amounts of things so that you can focus on it and really, eat the right amount, enjoy it better, and so on and so forth. But we've all seen that person whose plate is piled so high. Now, the analogy is your to-do list is the same, right? Your to-do list is the same. You've got it piled high. And because you've got it piled high, you're stepping over dollars to pick up dimes. It's just a little action figure there, stepping over dollars to pick up dimes. Should be $100 bills on the ground, not dollar bills. But if you have a long to-do list and you have multiple small projects and you give them energy, then you step over to dollars to pick up dimes. Likewise, I've worked with so many fitness experts who wanted to grow their gym. They weren't making enough sales. But if you actually talk to them and you look where their focus was on getting in better shape, doing another fitness contest, doing a Tough Mudder run. And it's like, those things will not give you the great results that you're looking for. Because when you answer my better version of the Dan Sullivan question at the end, you'll see oh my goodness, yeah, it's easy to see that how these things are holding you back. And so again, when you are asked, what do you want to accomplish in 3 years? People come up with this massive list. And I know this because I've run over 150 workshops, and we have this one question in the workshop, what are your values and vision for the next 10, or what are your values for the next 10 years in family, health, wealth, and experiences? What are the greatest things you want to accomplish there? And people put like 5 or 6 things down for each. And it is physically impossible to accomplish all of those things. It was kind of like this brain dump. And so that's a brain dump question, but it doesn't get you to the focus, right? So Dr. Vikram, he wanted $1 billion, but he was focusing too much time. He wants $1 billion dollars in his fund, assets under management in his real estate fund. But he's also focusing on adding some millions to his coaching business. And that's just doesn't make sense, right? You want the billion, not the million. And I have another client, a client who runs a $20 million IT company, and he's focusing on this book and online course that will help other entrepreneurs. But he has the opportunity to join a private equity group for a massive deal. And it's worth like generational wealth to his family. And yet too much time was going into, let's launch a course that, might sell for a few $100, right? So we need to make sure that we are not stepping over dollars to pick up dimes, or in this case, stepping over hundreds of millions of dollars to pick up a few $1,000. Even if you're stepping over, or even if you're picking up $1 million on the other side, if you're stepping over $100 million, that's a bad mathematical decision. And a lot of clients, this just goes in general, especially for the fitness coaches and the online coaches and some of the course creators that we work with, they spend so much time on social media creating organic content, but not enough time on paid advertising and actually selling the product. And so it's a whole lot of activity, but not a lot of accomplishment. So what is the solution to all this? And we go to Mr. Buffett. So Buffett has 2 T's and Buffet has 1 T. Never forget that in your spelling. Usually when you go to, buffet, you want two of everything. So it should be 2 T's on the buffet, but no, it's 1 T on the buffet and it's 2 T in Mr. Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett has all the money. But there's this story that about Warren Buffett. He's on his private jet and he's talking to his pilot, and the pilot's name was Mike Flynn. And he says, Mike Flynn, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? And Mike Flynn writes down these 25 goals. And Warren says, no, man, you got to pick the top 5 and then delete the other 20 and never think of them again. Now, the note is that this is a made up story. It was made up by some guy who knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy who knew Warren Buffett, right? And so what's not a real story, but it does give you a pretty good message that if you have a million things on your list, you got to just ruthlessly eliminate them. So the real story, the real quote from Warren is about saying no. And he says this: the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. If you want to do great things, you have to do fewer things. If you want to really enjoy a meal, you have to say no to the junk that you put on your plate that fills you up. So imagine once again, we're at that buffet at the Ritz-Carlton. Okay, this is actually a Ritz-Carlton buffet. And imagine that you and I are sitting here 3 years from now. Your life had actually not changed at all. So instead of the Dan Sullivan question, which is, what are all the things that you want to happen to be personally and professionally successful? Okay, just imagine your life hadn't changed at all. Now, knowing that your life hadn't changed at all, what would tick you off the most about that? And this is where you can get so super focused, right? You get so super focused and so granular that what would cause you the most stress in 3 years from now? That you hadn't made X amount of money to protect your family's future, that you hadn't reconciled your relationship, made it stronger, or had more kids, or, for me, if we, tick me off in a couple of years, if we haven't had our 3rd kid, it's like, what am I doing wrong? What am I not focusing on? Or if there was any tension at home, that's the thing that's most important to me. Therefore, I can rearrange my life so that I'm not doing things that are going to tick me off. There's also some financial goals that I have that I know if I don't hit them, it's really going to make me embarrassed, ashamed. And so now you think, what would tick you off the most in 3 years from now? Would it be not selling a few courses, or would it be missing out on a private equity deal worth $100 million? Whoa, now you go, wait a minute, I can only do a few things. I can only put a few things on my plate. So therefore, I must be very, very, very picky. Is it going to be the $1 billion real estate fund, or am I going to choose to make $1 million in a coaching program? Is it going to be writing a book and creating a course that sells a few hundred copies, or is it going to be doing a $100 million deal with a massive private equity company? Is it going to be, making sure I get a few likes on social media, or is it actually selling a product and making a business and turning a profit? Well, you know the answer to this, right? If you don't do those things on the billion should be on the right-hand side. But if you don't do the $1 billion deals, if you don't do the $100 million deal, if you don't do the selling, that's going to lead to the problems. And so if we were sitting there in 3 years from now, we would invert the Dan Sullivan question. And the inversion comes from Warren Buffett's business partner, Charlie Munger. So instead of, what do you want to have happen so that you'll feel pretty good personally and professionally? No, if the things didn't happen, what would drive you insane with embarrassment and disappointment and frustration if you didn't accomplish these things? Whoa, that's a totally different mindset. Like, I have to get this done. I have to do this. It's like, because you imagine asking this to a professional athlete, like in 3 years from now, I'd love to have, be on a good team, maybe win a few championships. And it's like blah-de-da. But if you ask that, like in 3 years from now, what would really make you angry if you haven't accomplished? Man, if we hadn't won the championship, I would be so frustrated. That's the answer. It's not about winning a few awards or whatever, maybe winning some championships. Like, no, I'm singularity, solitary focus on winning the championship. And it just removes the fluff. So, Dan Sullivan's amazing. He has just been a game changer. And that question is good, but I think this can be better. Invert the Dan Sullivan question. Not la-di-da, what would you like to have happen? But instead, what would drive you nuts if it didn't happen in the next 3 years? If you didn't accomplish it in the next 12 months, if you didn't get this done in the next 90 days, what would drive you nuts? And then use that fuel to fire you up and help you get focused. That's what it's about. I made this post on social media just an hour ago. Every single minute you waste on these snoozing, scrolling, reading email, watching porn, smoking weed, getting wasted, arguing or gossiping steals valuable minutes from your family, future, fitness, faith, and finances. You got to just say no. Very successful people say no. And, like my friend Vikram, he's very influenced by Grant Cardone. Grant, Vikram and I both recently read Be Obsessed or Be Average, which is one of Grant's older books, and it really gets you fired up in the first half. And it gets you really thinking about what matters. But, Grant, sure, he sold some courses and stuff, but he built his real estate empire massively before he got really heavily into the courses and the events and all that sort of stuff. And that's, where I'm pushing Vic is to get the $1 billion, my man. And people will be begging you to coach them when they know that you have $1 billion fund. So it is really focus. Alex Hormozi, very successful guy. I've had him on the podcast. He makes this TikTok video about, like, everybody says millionaires have 7 streams of income. It's like, no, they don't, but they don't start with 7 streams. They start with 1 and become a millionaire, and then they get a bunch of other income streams. That's how they do it. So they say no, they focus, they have massive success. They don't step over the dollars. They pick every dollar up, every single dollar up that's sitting there. And they don't even worry about the dimes. So that's what I want for you to understand. Now, if you need help with this, I just want to tell you about my mastermind. We're going to be spending a lot of time on this, on funnels, on productivity, on sales training. We have an amazing mastermind coming up in September 22nd, 23rd in Cancun. We do all our masterminds in Cancun. We do them September, January, and May. And I'll tell you what, when people focus, like here's one of our clients, finishing work at 2:30 p.m., shutting the computer down, business highlight, getting more done in the morning, typically doing a full day when they focus. Here's another one. Ann Laguza, she's in our mastermind. She usually speaks on leadership and HR, had a record month in July and got a big speaking gig. Massive. Love it. Another client of ours. That's Ann again. Sam Demura, 7-figure gym owner. He's making $100K a month in his gym. He's 28 years old. Amazing client. Comes to our masterminds all the time and just soaks it up. And he used the morning routine to create white space, made an extra 5K this week, in addition to like the 60 or grand that he sold in his program almost on a weekly basis. And, well, sorry, not 60, like 20 or 30 on a weekly basis, near 100K a month. And he was done work before 2 p.m. each day. He's in Greece now with his girlfriend. Man, the white space's secret to success will help you get that. Okay. So understand that the shortcuts to success is set aside your ego, ask for help, and be held accountable, which is what we provide in the mastermind. What got me to my first 6 figures, 7 figures, and selling over 8 figures of stuff online. So finally, just remember, Uncle Warren Buffett, just say no. All right, I'll leave you there. Probably the best book to start with that I have, we give away these books for free, is Perfect Week Formula. It'll help you say no to what matters, help you focus on what does, and really understand, get you clarity around your life. All right. And you want to hit me up on Instagram anytime. I will answer every single DM that comes in. I'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions about the mastermind, we'll see you there. Remember, just say no if you want to be successful.